everyone. Thank you for joining us today. We're really glad you've taken the time to be here. I'm Amanda Gay, Marketing Manager here at Planet. Before we get started, I want to let you know that we are recording this webinar and we'll be sharing it with everyone who registered. Please feel free to share it with anyone on your own teams as well. I'll just speak for a minute and then I'll hand you over to Christopher Monclier, our Senior Software Specialist. We will be pausing twice throughout the presentation to answer questions. Your cameras and mics are turned off, so please feel free to type your questions into the chat and I'll read them out to Christopher. If there are any questions that we're not able to get through during this session, we will make sure to follow up with you offline after the presentation. So I'll hand you over to Christopher now, and he will take you through what's new in Cabinet Vision Reimagined, why updating now is a good business decision, and how to do a software update without disrupting your business. Christopher, over to you.
Thank you, Amanda. Thank you. Hi, everyone. I'm Christopher Monclier, Senior Software Specialist. So I've been working with Planet Canada and using Cabinet for almost 10 years now. I started, if I'm not mistaken, working with version 2012. It was called Cabinet 2012. And now we are releasing, or we already released a few months ago, Cabinet version 2022. So it's been 10 years of Cabinet for me. I saw a lot of changes over the years, a lot of new features, improvement in the software. And why we wanted to do this session today, it's mostly because over the last 2 years, there is some pretty exciting changes and update in the software that's change a lot of things and make it more powerful and a better tool for you to save time working on your project. So that's what we'll see today during this session. So the first thing I want to explain is basically the changes in the way the software is basically bundled with your licenses. So if you're coming from a version that's maybe 2 or 3 years old or even older, you probably have Cabinet working with different levels. So you would, for example, have a license called Cabinet Standard, Cabinet Advanced, or Cabinet Ultimate. We also add also a Cabinet Essential as well. So now we basically reimagined this model and created a modular software, which means that now you can really pick and choose what option matters to you and which one you want to add to your licenses. So each license could be basically fully customized. The way it's working is every Cabinet user will start with the core solution, and with the core solution, they can pick core industry, basically if they want to focus on cabinets or if they want to focus on closets. So right now, most people will go with the cabinet solution. Other people will do a lot of walk-in closet, will also add the closet module as well. So the nice thing about the core solution with Cabinet, so that's really like the basic software you will all get no matter what you purchase or what you get with us, is you will all have the capability to do basic cabinet layout, like also print cut list, also do rendering, and also do estimating as well. So this is basically all the basic level of each different task you may have to do. So we wanted to have already a core solution that will give you much more than what you could do with just, for example, Cabinet Standard or Cabinet Essential before. One of the big improvement with this core solution is even if you start with the core solution, you will also get full object intelligence. So you could still make parametric cabinets and parts. You will also have UCS capabilities. So UCS is for custom programming. And also we added as well also the grain matching solution that's also part of the core solution. So everyone starting with a core license will be able to do object intelligence, UCSs, grid matching, do kitchen layouts, print them, send them to the drawing, and also get a cut list, and also get a basic job cost. So now, when you want to do more specialized tasks, so let's say you want to do a full estimating, that's where you will have the option to add the bidding. So the bidding, for example, will add basically customizable rate tables for pricing. You will also get the possibility to add labors and customize basically price based on the vendor. So you can have dynamic pricing based on where you're going to buy your materials. So that's basically what an example of customization you can do with a license when you start with core cabinet and you'll add the bidding. Another example is if you wanted to add reporting. Reporting will be basically to add more than 150 reports to your software and also include the full report editor. If you have a core cabinet license, just with the core cabinet without reporting, you will already get 13 reports available. So from those 13 reports, you will get, for example, a door list, a cabinet list, a panel cut list, and a material summary if you want to have a breakdown of the hardware and materials you need to order. So this is part of the core solution, but with reporting, you will add basically 150 reports and also can customize your report with the report editor as well. So because of that, now we have this tool available. It will mean that in your company, we can basically create custom licenses for every user. So if someone is more worried about estimating, they will get a license with bidding, for example. But if someone will just do a cabinet layout, we can just go with, for example, core cabinet, shaping, and maybe 2D CAD to do detailed shop drawings as well. So that's a nice tool. So you don't have basically to have all the tools that your coworker use, and you can have really specific things that matters to you in Cabnation. So that's really like the big change in the licenses with the newer version of Cabnation. So it was first introduced in 2021, and we continue with this in version 2022 as well. Next big change in Cabnation, and it happened recently with Cabnation version 2022, is basically what's happening under the hood of Cabnation. Now the software goes from 32-bit to 64 bits. So basically, the developers work hard, dedicated a full team to rewrite and update the code of the core software to basically update it to 64-bit software. So what it really means for you is basically we increase the footprint of the software, which means that you will not hit basically the limitation of the 32-bit memories. An easier way to understand this is, for example, over the last few years, many users has issues when they're working with really large jobs and they're doing, for example, shop drawings, a lot of pages of drawings and trying to print those, create live drawings and all that. And the software will even crash on some occasions. So basically with this older version of Cabnation, the 32 bits, you were basically running out of memory for Cabnation and the software will just shut down. So that's why we got this big update finally available for everyone now. So basically, instead of having a megabyte memory footprint, it will go to terabyte of memory. So that will basically really make it future proof and make sure that the software could grow and not have any limitation with the memory when you run and you do a lot of different things in the software. Also, another improvement because of this change is the fact that, for example, we do more and more high resolution renderings. So that will help basically to work better when you do 3D renderings using, for example, the photorealistic renderings and doing high resolution images. So for example, before we could do, for example, up to 1080p. Now we could increase the resolution of those images we can produce as well. So this is a big change introduced in 2022 with the update to 64 bits. Next thing is regarding the database. So as you may know or not, but we started a few years ago to basically merge all the database to a single file. So instead of having multiple different files on your computer and where the software has to go and read and write in 3, 4, 5, 10 different files to get some specific information, we basically now started introducing a SQL database system. So basically you will have a server that will store all the material information, the catalogs, the doors, and also the user preferences as well. And that will basically improve the exchange between the client and servers. So the goal of this was really to make sure that when you have the software and you had many users, you don't have issues like basically providing the data to each user. When we started, and myself, for example, I remember in 2009 or 10, I remember that one of the common thing we kind of was telling people is, hey, be careful if you had, for example, more than 10, 15 people on your network and all of them working in Caption all together, you could run into issues. And now with the SQL database, this is a non-issue anymore. So now we can have many people. We have some accounts with 50, 60, 70, 80 people all working off the same database connected to a server. And because we use the Microsoft SQL technology, it's really easier to communicate between the server and the workstation. And also it helps the IT teams to know where everything is stored, basically plan for backups, restore, and all that to make sure that we maintain the database and have it in a safe location as well. Also, to note that we still have a few Microsoft Access database, and it's mostly for reporting. And the reporting is basically just because when we work with third-party softwares like ERP softwares, they mostly sometimes need to read a file to get our job information. So when, for example, you go to your report center, CV will still generate a Microsoft Access file where it will store all the job information of the current job you are working on. We do the same thing for machining. So when you want to output to your CNCs, we still have an access file that will store all the parts and operation of your current job. What we did is basically we updated the access file format. So before we were using an older version of Microsoft Access, so it was basically requiring you to have Office 2007, if I'm not mistaken, to be able to open the file. But now we basically updated this to the ACCDB database file format. It's more for the tech people, but what it does is basically it granted that everyone running any version of Microsoft Office could open those files. So you don't have to, it's not forcing you to install an older version of Office if you wanted to check something in the file. So it's more compatibility with the most current version of Microsoft Access. Now, next thing we worked on, and this is the door catalog. So the door catalog was the old name of what now we'll call it the door editor or the door manager. So basically what happened is over the years, we had this kind of dated tools that never really got updated with Capvision, which was okay, was doing a lot of things. But we finally had the team to basically get to rewrite the code while we were doing the migration to the 64-bit version of Capvision. They also created this new door manager, and basically it will allow you to do more than what you could do before, and also make it run much better. So it won't crash, it won't have weird errors when you do profiles and MDF doors. So this is with the new version of Capvision, you get the new door manager. So some of the new features, and they will basically touch basically every door style. So for example, if we talk about MDF doors, so one-piece doors, what I like myself is the fact that now in this door manager, we improve the shape editor. So when you want to draw a shape that you want to use to create a route, now we use the exact same shape editor that you will use in your actual jobs and drawing a cabinet, shaping a cabinet, or creating a molding or a countertop. So it's not like a different tool, and also it will also get all the same options and capability of the shape editor. You will be able to add constraint and also write code with basically parameters. So if you want to create object intelligence inside your door, you could do it. And what it'll allow you to do, and a very specific example is if you wanted to create a slab door and add a cutout for a glass, before we all needed to have a UCS to do that, to basically create the operation on the door. And you have to write this code and say, hey, when I have a slab door, add an option for me to add a cutout, and so on and so on. Now we can do the same thing within the door manager. So we could directly create a slab door and call it, for example, slab glass, and create the operation. So you will draw your cutout, and then you can add parameters on the door. You could even make those parameters dynamic, where you had an attribute saying you want to control the rail and style width, for example. And that will be all done with no specific UCS needed. So that will save you a few UCSs, and it's much user friendly to do it inside the door editor and actually use the drawing tools to do that. Other thing is, if you do your wood doors, for example, let's say you cut 5-piece doors. So we added also additional parameters for oversizing. So typically, sometime when you need to do some cleanup on your wood doors when you assemble them, you would need to clean up the parts. So we will always need to oversize them. Same thing before, we could oversize some part of the door before, but not all. But now every single part you will find on your door, you can individually add a parameter and say how much you want to oversize it before, for example, cutting it or sending it to a machine for drilling or routing, for example. So that's a great tool. Also, one new feature is the fact that we added what we call a door association matrix. What it does is it will replace basically the tool we had before to swap door styles when you have a small drawer front or a tall door, for example. Before, you had one option if your door was less than a specific height to use a different door style. It would work sometime for most people, but what we did now, instead of having basically one field for one size, we created a matrix, which would be basically a spreadsheet where you can add your own condition. You can say, hey, if my door is the height of my door is between 6 and 9 inches, I want to use a 2.25 rail. If my door is less than 6 inches but more than 3 inches, I want to use 1.75 rail, for example, for my door. So you can really create all those conditions, and that will be all living in one door style. And then automatically CV will look at all those rules and knows that if it falls into one of those conditions, it has to change the door style for you. So you could have really like a very complex way of managing door style based on the door size, basically. So that's some of the new feature of the new door manager in the newer version of CabVision. Another added feature, it's more about customization of the CabVision user interface. So now, and that's something also I like a lot, and I'm sure a lot of you will like, is the fact that first you can customize the ribbon bar. So all the tools you have on the top of your window when you design a job, now you can customize the buttons. So the nice thing is you can move them around. So you can say, hey, I want to prioritize, for example, my CAD tool over my, I don't know, my shaping tool, for example. So you can really say, I want to see or hide specific buttons. And also that will allow you to also change the different tabs. So right now we mostly have a main tab and a utilities tab, but you can create customized tab if you want to put specific tools in specific tabs. So you can kind of organize your job where you create a tab called design, and you put all the design tools function from there. You have another tab saying you call it programming, and you put your UCSs, your IntelliJoint or your connector, all those things that's more like for high level modification in the software. On top of being able to customize the ribbon bar, one nice thing is you can also create custom keyboard shortcuts, and this one is something that people was asking for a long time, and now it's finally live. So any button that you will see in the toolbar, you could basically associate to a custom keyboard shortcut. So you can say, for example, in this example, if you wanted to have your measure tool to be activated with the M key on your keyboard, you could go here, find the measure tool and say, I want to hit M, and then that will activate my measure tool. And that's nice because now you can get access to things that you use a lot much faster, and then that will of course improve your workflow and make it easier for you to work. And if you use other software, you could even match those shortcuts that you use in other software as well and implement them in your CapVision software. One new feature, and that will be something that will make designers happy. It's the fact that we added a new handle-free construction where we use a support rail. So before, when we wanted to do this, we needed to create some UCSs, some custom programming, and find some workaround to create those kind of cabinets with the basically rail behind the doors where you will have to notch the gables. So now this is a tool that is available in the system. So you have a new material available that will be called finger profile, and then you can select a shape. We have a few choices available: L shape, C shapes, for example. But you could also as well import your own profile shape from, for example, SketchUp. So if you have something that's really custom and not common, you could import it, and CapVision will extrude it as basically a finger profile. What is nice is also CapVision will also add some question in the assembly construction on how you want to have them notch out. So basically width and depth, even adjustments. So if you want to make them a little bit bigger, and also position as well. So for example, for the top drawer, do you want to use a specific shape? Let's say, for example, the L shape will be only for the top drawer. And if you happen to need to add a profile between two drawers, you can say, for those, I need to use the C shape instead of the L shape. And also, because this is part of the system now, when you go and modify your cabinet, when you double click on it and it's bringing you to the assembly editor, you will be able to click between those doors and drawers and define if you want or not this support rail, because sometimes we have a lot of combination where you want it on the top, you don't want it in the middle because you're planning to put it on the bottom, and upper cabinet sometimes it's different. Pantry is different because instead of being on the top, it will be on the side. So you could do all that with the assembly editor, where you can customize it the same way you would customize a door. When you click on the door, you click on the drawer front. So that's all part of the system with this new handle-free construction. I know we often heard about the one from Richelieu. It's called Gola. So this is basically one thing that we will be able to implement with the newer version of CapVision. So what I will do now, I've been talking a little bit, so I will pause for a second, and I will answer some questions. So feel free to go in the chat and write down a question, and I will go back to Amanda and see if we have any questions.
Thank you, Christopher. We don't have any questions in the chat yet, but we do have some ready to go. Some of these came from our webinar yesterday. with our French audience. So I'll start you off with this one. Will we lose any functionality by migrating to the latest version?
So that's a good question. So when you migrate from older version of Cablevision, one version where you were still on the older license style, where you get the advanced ultimate. So what we try to do is to match as best as we could your actual license. So basically, if you have solid standard, the closest match was to go to core cabinet. In this instance, you basically gaining more features than what you had before. So this is really like a win situation for you because you get object intelligence, UCSs, grain matching that you didn't have before. If you go with some version of Cablevision, previous version, you may lose some feature, but also you will gain some. So there's a kind of a balance where you win more than you lose. But if the one that you're going to lose matters really to you, of course, we'll have to have a conversation with you and your salesperson just to first assess what will be the changes for you and what will be the impact if it's sometime just all good for you or it may impact you, and we'll see what is the best solution to make sure that we don't remove features that you use in Cablevision.
Perfect, thank you. We have some questions from our audience now. The first one is about the door editor. So how to set a template on a door.
So in the new door editor, when you create a one-piece door, you will still have the option to load a template. And the template will be the same as we had in the previous version. So there's a really like a match in this case. So you get the same template where you can do a shaker door, a cathedral door, and so on and so on. Now, because I said you have the shape editor included in the door editor, so you could basically design your very own style where you add your operation and your shape and make it parametric. So you could use those old templates, but you would likely want, if it's something more complex that's not available in the list, you will basically create the shape, make it parametric, and then associate a toolpath to it.
Perfect, thank you. Our next question is, will we be getting a subscription-based price model?
A very good question. I'm not sure if I'm allowed to really say it, but it's coming, and it's coming really soon with Cablevision. So just stay tuned, and it's coming really soon, and we are working on it.
Perfect, thank you. We'll be sure to follow up on that question as soon as we have complete information. And I will be able to, even in this chat, I'll be able to attach a link to the subscription options. Our next question, also about pricing. This one is, how does this affect Ultimate users as far as cost?
So for you, Ultimate user, and that's really something that's always been basically the way we work, Ultimate user will always have access to all the available features that they had previously. So there's not any feature that will be lost. So the software will stay the same. And anything that we added as new feature will basically be added to their licenses. We introduced some specific add-on that wasn't part of Cablevision before. Those will be separate purchase, but they are just something that will added features that you may need or not. So there's no worry to be forced to buy those add-ons. So your Ultimate license will migrate to the newer version, and you will be able to do 100% sure 100% of what you were doing before.
Perfect, thank you. Next one about door styles. This one says, will we be able to migrate door styles, or is it a case of remaking door styles?
So the good news is those doors that you already have, they will all migrate to the newer version of Cablevision. So there will be a migration to the newer version of the door manager. We'll import those doors, and for example, if you have those custom wood doors or even MDF doors, they will still migrate. I will still say that it's worth checking if you can do it better, because maybe those one-piece door that you're doing, you had a kind of to do it like more complicated than what we could do before. So it's nice to maybe use those new tools, but you still have those doors that will migrate to the newer version. You don't have to start over.
Great, thank you. I think we have time for one more question, and then I'll just move the rest of the questions to our second Q&A. So this last question is there now a UCS code schedule to refer to in help?
So in the help file itself, it's pretty much the same as it was before. So there's no real like new topics or links in the help file to refer to UCS code. But we can follow up with you, and we have some other content that could help you start having more information and help on how to write or how to create UCSs. We'll make sure to follow up on this. Okay, so I guess we'll continue the question a little bit later. So I will move to the next new feature of CabVision, and that's also part of the way we can add pulls and handle on doors. So we added also a profile finger pull object in the system. So the nice thing about it, it's basically a new material, the same as the one I presented before for the Gola system. So this one will be basically a tool where you can pick a finger pull and select an edge of your door and say, I want to add the finger pull on the top edge, on the bottom edge, and so on and so on. So it's not like a notch on the cabinet, it's really added to the door. And the software, of course, in the parameters, you can set basically how it will affect your door size. So you may be, for example, need to make the door shorter. In this case, you just add the value, how much you want to cut on the top, on the bottom of your door, and that will make it happen automatically. Also, same as the other profile, this one you will have a few selection of profile included in the materials when you create the material for the profile. But of course, if you want, you can import your very own profile from a SketchUp model, and CabVision will extrude it and make it basically a new finger pull profile. And this will also be adding question in the door manager in the case where you're planning to use those finger pull to already create door style, where you can already default the edges where you want the finger pull and what profile you want to use for those door styles as well. Then we have some new features in the rendering. So with the newer version of CabVision, so we have now tool to create a walkthrough with CabVision. So basically what it does is you can save different cameras position within your room, and then create some basically script where you want the software to move the camera from A to B, B to C, and set also a time. And the software, when you click the play button, it will basically play an animation where you will create basically a transition from one save view to another one. So it's a nice way to create a presentation for your customer. Also, we added a new add-on, and this add-on is called Tour. So this is basically a real-time rendering application that's compatible with CabVision. So basically, when you create your room, you can send the room to the Tour app, and then the tool will load it and allow you to basically move the camera up, down, left, right, like the same you would do in a video game, and do some real-time rendering of your room. So it's nice if you have a customer in front of you and you want to show them the room and walk around with them. So you could do it with the tour edition. It's really similar to Vortex Spaces. So it's just an additional solution on top of what we could do with Vortex Spaces. The difference is just also a tool that's basically built in CabVision. So this is something that could added with your rendering, and you just have to add the tool function, and then you can do those real-time rendering. Speaking about rendering, with the new version of Cabvision, and this is really because of the upgrade to 64-bit. Now our rendering app is something that could be run as a standalone application. So basically what it means is it will allow you to create photorealistic rendering as a separate task on your computer. So before, when you want to do rendering, you have to click Start Rendering, and basically you would wait until it's done in order to do anything else in Cabvision. So Cabvision is kind of like doing one thing, and once it's done, sorry, you can move to the next thing. Now, what you can do is you have a button in Cabvision that will be called X render or just render. And when you click on it, it will open a separate window with your 3D room. And then you can decide if you want to start the rendering and what style of rendering you want to do. And because it's a separate app, you can still go back to your Cabvision software and still working on your job, and Cabvision will keep doing the rendering as a task on your computer. So it's much better than what we could do before. Now you can multitask, do high resolution rendering while you're working, and even if it takes a few minutes, but you are not waiting, waiting on in front of your computer. We now started working on more basically file that we can import and export from Cabvision. And the first basically thing we are introducing is the 3D DWG export from Cabvision. So what it is basically your 3D view now can be exported as a native AutoCAD file from Cabvision. So you go to the 3D view, you will have in the utilities tab export DWG file, and when you click on it, Cabvision will produce a 3D view of your room. So basically that will be all the geometry will be drawn, and now you can load them in AutoCAD and add them to your AutoCAD job. So it's a nice way if you wanted to include some 3D view inside an AutoCAD drawing, or even from the 3D view, of course, you can still get a plan view and elevation view in AutoCAD. So you get a 3D model of your Cabvision job in AutoCAD, but DWG is not only for AutoCAD, it's a very widely used file format, so you can open it in many different CAD software as well. So that's a nice thing for exporting files from Cabvision to other CAD software as well. Now, regarding manufacturing, so what we added now in the new version of Cabvision is the fact that we have a tool to create scrap cuts. So we had more and more over the years some requests about how to deal with basically scrap in order to easily dispose of those scraps. So basically before, when you have you cut on your CNC machine, you will have basically your parts, but you will also have two things, offcut and scrap. So when it's the offcut, it's easy because you already add the square offcut tool. So you will just add Cabvision, make it square or at least rectangular, and then you offload it and store it somewhere. But the scrap cut will be basically that you could end up with a hard and weird shape of part that you have to think of how you dispose of this part. And most of the time, a guy will try to break it even on the floor, bang it on the wall, or go on a table saw and cut it in small pieces in order to put them in the bin. So now with this new tool, you will be able to set a maximum cut width and length, and CV will check any scrap and make them small pieces that you can easily fit in a bin. And what you see on the screenshot on the right, it's the scrap cut will be all the green lines will be basically added at the end of your nesting instead of breaking those offcut and not offcut scrap into small pieces to fit in the bin here. And just to explain why we introduced this and what was the story behind it, because I was part of this project as well, is we had some people who started installing robotic arms that will basically automatically pick up parts offcut and move them to a different station. But before the problem was when you have those scrap, it couldn't move them because they were all weird and the robot has no idea how to grab it and so on and so on. So that's where we work with Hexagon and say, hey, what if we would have like basically a bin at the end of the offloading table? The robotic arm will offload everything and just leave those small pieces on the table, and then automatically it will activate the basically conveyor and drop everything in the bin, and you don't even have to touch anything. So that's how it started, and now it's available for everyone. Another thing we introduced, and that's because we upgraded to Camvision 64-bit, is basically we added an additional solution to basically output file to Alphacam. So if you are an Alphacam user and you're using Camvision, we have this nice tool that now will allow you to export inside your job without even having to go to the STM center. You will have a tool to send all those parts to Alphacam in ARD file. So that will be the native Alphacam file. So each part could be an Alphacam file, and that will be compatible with the very last version of Alphacam, the version 2022, or even the older version if you have an older version. And now you can do your entire optimization and machining from Alphacam without even having to stop in the STM center, create a nesting, import the nesting in Alphacam, and then tweak it there. You could just take the part from Camvision and tell Alphacam to nest everything for you and use all the tools from Alphacam if you prefer to do nesting in Alphacam instead of you doing it in S2M Center here. So that will be some of the exciting new features of Camvision Reimagined. Now we are introducing Camvision version 2022. So we wanted to also take time to also discuss basically how to better handle software updates. So basically the goal everyone wants is to try to make an upgrade without having to disrupt your business. So not having downtime, not make it painful for everyone. So I wanted to share some tips and maybe some advice on how to better do your software update and migration. So really my first thing is to always try to make a plan first. So don't start just downloading, installing, and see how it goes without really like thinking about it twice, because you don't want to basically end up in a position where you like didn't plan for something and now you kind of between two versions and you kind of stuck there. So it's always good to have a migration plan. With this plan, what you want is to identify basically what will be the best step in order to successfully migrate your software. Usually what it will look like is you will see based on how many licenses you have to migrate, who would be the first user you want to migrate first. Because I always say it's not a good idea to try to install the software on every station at the same time and try to have everyone to go to the newer version overnight. Just simply because you first have to implement it on the workstation where you know that someone can test it and make sure that it's fully working, and it allow you to basically do the same thing you are used to do before with the new tools. So when you do this migration, you will most of the time decide to install it on engineer and production station, because they will be the one that will kind of be able to test, make sure that whatever you draw machine can be cut, can be also printed, labeling is working. So everything with the production system will allow you to check if it's working or not. Sometimes I also like to install it on a designer computer. So maybe if you have someone, maybe a senior designer, you would ask them to be part of the first batch of station you want to upgrade, just because they will be the one that will easily catch any changes or things that's not the same as the previous drawing they were doing. So they will basically do some new job on their computer, give it to the engineer who has the newer version, him now look at it and send it to production and check if everything is working. And during this testing phase, you want to maybe do 2 to 3 jobs and make sure that once you get to a point where those jobs run exactly the same as they run before, now you're ready to go to the next step. The next step now is more improving things. So you will, based on the new tools, you will see that, okay, now maybe I can make my MDF doors more a better way, like the machining faster, or I can maybe now do something now with my reports that I couldn't do before. So you can use those new tools to improve your workflow. And then this is where you can deploy the software to the other user. And of course, don't skip on training. So make sure that you also include some training for everyone to be aware of the new tools and what this new version bring on the table for them. So what will be the changes here? So that's basically something you could do. And now what we'll do, we'll go back to you, Amanda, just to continue answering the question we have, and I'll leave it to you.
Thanks so much, Christopher. We have a lot of good questions here and some good topics for discussion. So I'll start where we left off, and I'll honor our guest by not sugarcoating this one. It says the live drawing feature on 3D has been subpar with the previous versions. Has CV fixed this issue with the new version?
Very good question. So my understanding of the live drawing is really the main issue was the 64-bit limitation that will make it kind of like unreliable if you work on a large job. So for example, if you work on a job with many rooms and many 3D live drawing views, that's where the software will start slow down, and even like you'll have issue printing pages. So that's really basically one of the reasons why we really wanted to push this update, to basically make sure that we don't have those crashes and of all those software issues, including with the live drawing.
Thank you. I have a couple of questions here about UCSs that I'll give you at the same time. So the first is, would it be recommended that we start with a clean install without all our UCSs, since a lot are now obsolete? And will new versions affect previous UCSs?
A good question, and they are almost like related. So if you come from a very old version of Cabvision, that's where you would find there's some issues with your previous UCSs. And I like that you wondering if they will be obsolete or not, because maybe some of the new features of Cabvision will allow you to do the exact same thing without a UCS. So I would not say that you will necessarily want to start with a clean version without all the UCSs. This is also part of the migration plan, because what we like to do is to look at those UCSs and kind of already know in advance which one will need to be updated, which one are not required, and which one will still be working and still be needed in your version. So this is really on a case-by-case basis, but most UCSs will keep working if you come from a recent version of Cabvision. So recent, I said, if you are in CV 12, 11, even 10, you will have very little issues with your UCS that you will import. If you come from 9 and 8, that's where there's more changes and more regarding hardware. For example, if you have UCSs for drawers, for hinges, so those kind of thing, that's where you may not need all the UCSs, and we probably have already newer version of those UCSs available for you.
Awesome, thank you. Next question is, will dimension styles be able to be exported as a package? Same question for the customizing ribbon and tab options.
Oh, good question. So for the dimension style, yes, because that's one thing that we finally added inside the SQL database. So that's living there. For the customizing the ribbon bar, I'm not 100% sure. This one, I haven't tested it myself. If it's safe, my guess, I will say it's probably something that's really like part of the preferences. So it may still be something that will be just save on your local computer, not really shared with everyone. But there's probably a setting in the registry or a file that you could copy over to basically standardize and just share it with other users.
Perfect, thank you. Next question is, does the new door editor allow you to modify middle rail to 60-40 split or 70-30 split rather than having it stuck at 50-50?
Good question. And with some object intelligence, you could basically implement this code where you write a formula that will allow you to have automatically positioning this, saying I want my rail to be the door height times 0.7 or 0.3, something like that, just to automatically move the Y position, and you get this exact same result. So it's not like an easy setting where you just have a field saying I want 70-30, for example, but it could be done with just adding a parameter to the Y position to control the elevation and also control the height of the panels as well.
Excellent, thank you. Next question, does the new version support multi-core processing, or are there improvements in speed and calculations?
So the new software, yes, the goal is really like to take advantage of the multi-core processing. So it's something that really started in this newer version. So we basically slowly updating different basically task of calculation to do multitasking, and that's why the rendering was the one where we kind of created basically an example of what you could do in CAD where you have one task doing rendering and another task is still drawing and designing cabinet layout. That will be something that also will affect more area of the software, and it's on the roadmap. And one will be, for example, nesting. So it's not live yet, so don't I'm not selling the future, but I'm just saying that we are already exploring the fact that for things like nesting, optimization, we would be able to do more with the software in order to make it faster.
Awesome, thank you. I have kind of a two-part question here. So the first is, how well does the migration work from 2021 to 2022? And then similar to above question, currently using CV11, can I skip any versions to get to the latest version 2022?
Okay, so for the migration from 2021 to 2022, this is honestly the easiest one that could be done because 2021 was already like under the CV Reimagined umbrella. So basically it was already like the same architecture, and the changes will basically transfer easily. So what you want to do is from your 2021 workstation, when you install 2022, you will have the option to migrate or basically import the data. You could do the import, and you will still have your 2021 version available, so you can still work in CV 2021. And now 2022 will be also installed, and will basically create a copy of all your data from 2021 and import them in 2022. But I'm doing it a lot back and forth between the two versions, and I have no problem even opening a 2021 job in 2022. This is also something that works really well. Now, if it's the second part, CV 11, so you can skip the version between. So you could skip 12 and 2021 and go directly to 2022. This is really no problem. So this one will be a little bit more work, just simply because we had some major changes with the assembly construction where we added additional question, and also we introduced the connections. So basically you can do more custom connection to connect your parts together. So it will be importing it with the data to recreate the exact same construction, but you will still want to go over how it's all set up to make it easier and better in the newer version, but you can go straight to 2022.
Perfect, thank you. Next question. I hear mention of license migration. Can I run two versions of CV on the same PC still? For example, CV10 and CV 2022?
So that's a good question. So we try to make it happen, but make sure that this is something that we have a conversation before doing the migration, because sometimes we go and say, hey, let's migrate, and you do it on your own, and you didn't realize that you needed to do something to make sure that you keep your older version working. So for example, between CV10 and CV22, it is possible, but make sure that we work together so we can really create the license setup for you in order for you to get access to the newer version and still be able to open CV10 as well.
Perfect. Thank you. I'm just looking through. There's some great discussions happening. Is CV 2021 also operating in 64-bit?
The answer is no. It's really started with CV 2022. So 2021, it's still 32-bit. If you want to try the 64-bit, you will have to go to 2022.
Perfect. Thank you. Has there been any changes to countertops with edge banding, info, and labeling?
To my knowledge, no. The countertop is the same, but also it will depend from what version of Caption you are running. You are coming from me. Sorry, because if you come from CV, I would say 8, 9, even 10, we added a new countertop assembly construction. So this is probably something we will have to answer it offline just to check your version and see what are the changes.
Perfect. So we'll just take one last question before we finish up, and I'll just reiterate that we will be following up with all of these questions that have been typed into the chat here. So last question, is the current version 2022 fully stable, or is it still a beta test version?
Good question. So it's not a beta testing anymore. So we not beta testing it. We did it for a few months during the end of 2021. Now it's already released and available for everyone. I would say that it is fine. I mean, I'm not having any unexpected crashes. I'm aware of a few bugs, but the nice thing about the CV Reimagined and the way they work is now the team, because they rewriting the code, and the developer are really dedicated to it. When there's a bug, it gets fixed much faster than what it was in the past. So we could have every 2 weeks or every 3 weeks if needed. So when there's some major bugs, we will get a fix fairly quick. It will be fairly quick to have the update available for you. But it is stable. No, there's no beta testing anymore.
Perfect. Thank you, Christopher. Maybe what we could do is move on to our special offer to make sure that everyone has time to hear about it. And then anyone who has to excuse themselves can do so. And perhaps you and I could stay online for a few minutes just to get through the last few questions.
Yep, no problem. No problem.
Thank
No
you.
problem. So, so because of the fact that migrating could be a little bit stressing for you, so we wanted to also have you an offer because you spent some time with us today. So what we're offering you, so if you want, you can have a 30-minute appointment with myself and also your sales representative. So we will basically check your system. So I will go online and remotely access your system and also ask a few questions to some members of your team, and then we'll come up with a document to basically list all the steps and estimated time for your migration. So this is free. If you are interested, you will get a link to ask for a meeting, and then we'll get in touch and do it in the next coming weeks. So if some people have to leave, so I want to thank you. Thank you for your time today. I will pass it to Amanda, and if you have some question, we'll make sure that we answer them online now or even offline, following up with email.
Thanks so much, Christopher, and thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today. As I said, I'll be sending you all the recording of this session in just a few hours, along with the invitation for a free migration assessment with Christopher. And as always, we welcome your questions, your feedback, and we invite you to give us a call or reply to my email if you want to ask us anything. So have a great day. Goodbye to everyone who has to go, and anyone who would like to stay for a few minutes, we'll go through just a few more questions. All right. So Christopher,
Yes.
We have another question here, and I think you touched on it, but I just want to make sure we do get this answer. Is CV 2022 a release candidate?
So the answer is it's not a release candidate anymore. It was for a few weeks in January, February, but now it's really like the stable version available to anyone, and you can download it from your portal. And now on the portal, you will get access to the most current version of the software. But if you're not sure how to get to the portal or where to find the link, reach out to us and we can explain to you how to do it.
Perfect. Thank you. Next question, is Windows 11 approved for use with CV 2022? Actually, we have an email scheduled, I believe, for tomorrow morning, so everyone will be receiving an update on this. But Christopher, I'll hand it over to you just to answer that for today.
Yes, so yes, the Windows 11 is supported with Capvision 2022. So we still have some testing in progress. So because Windows 11, it's still being deployed and with update, but it is running. So on my computer, I have two computers on 11 running 2022, 2021. They are working, but there's still some small compatibility issues that's being worked on the Microsoft side or the CV side. But the answer is yes, it will work, but keep us. I will keep you posted with the email we have coming from Amanda tomorrow.
Yes, I think you're absolutely right that just because some clients have had some issues with it, that we're saying the next release will be the one that is officially compatible with Windows 11. But as I said, you'll receive those details tomorrow. Next question, will I be able to open jobs I've created in CV11 with CV 2022? Or will I have to keep CV11 on my computer to finish jobs we've previously drawn to complete them?
So I will mostly say always keep your CV11, and I like to tell people if you can finish the jobs in the current version where you started them. So if you started the job in CV11, finish it in 11. But if it's for testing, yes, you are free to take some job, specific job, and say, hey, I really want to see if this job will go to 2022 and see if I get the exact same result. The thing I will say is really important to always create a copy of the original job, so don't overwrite it. So when you save it, use the option to save as, and save as the same job name with at the end -CV 2022. So in case you have any issues, you can still open it in 11, and also it'll allow you to be able to compare those jobs. So you can open your CV 11, your CV 2022, put them side by side, and see if everything is as expected.
Perfect, thank you. And this is the last one, Christopher. Just going back to the Windows 11 issue, the question is, are versions CV11 and CV12 okay in Windows 11?
So that's one where it's working, but we cannot like really be really 100% sure that it will work for everyone. Just simply because those versions were released after Capvision 11 and 12, so it could work today, but it could create some issues if there's a Windows update or something. So I would say if you don't have to update and you find with, for example, your version 10, stay in 10. But if you really want to try 11, do it, but be careful because you never know what could happen with this newer version with version 11 or 12.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Christopher. That's all the questions we have in the chat.
Perfect. Thank you, everyone. Have
Thanks
a good day.
everyone who stayed with us. Have a great day.